Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Devon and today we are going to make these two classic pies. The ingredients for both pies are pretty simple and straightforward, and a few of the ingredients actually overlap one another and will be used in both pies. We have our sweet potatoes, also known as garnet yams as well. We've got some cinnamon, some evaporated milk, butter, nutmeg, vanilla, some brown sugar. For our pumpkin pie, we have some sweetened condensed milk, our eggs, cloves, some salt, and we'll also be using some cinnamon in our pumpkin pie as well. Now you ready? Let's get started. So this is what you need to do first. And first we're going to start off with our sweet potatoes. I like to line a cookie sheet with some foil, and you can also just individually wrap the sweet potatoes in foil as well. You want to take a fork and make several prick marks all throughout your sweet potatoes to let some of that steam escape, and it also helps the potatoes to bake up nice and evenly. And so while I'm doing this, I have my oven is preheating on 400 degrees because we're going to bake our sweet potatoes until they are nice and tender. And our little knife will easily go through the sweet potatoes. This will take anywhere from about an hour to about an hour and 15 minutes, okay? Now while that's going on, I have made my pie shells. Now this is my recipe for flaky pie crust, and here is a caption right there of the flaky pie crust that I love to make. At the end of this video, as well as on the end card, I'm going to have the link to my video on how to make pie crust like a pro. It's going to have the recipe as well as all of the techniques to make great pie crust. Now what you want to do though is with making your pumpkin pie and sweet potato pie, what I have found is that it is best to do blind baking. If you're not familiar with blind baking, that process, blind baking is basically pre-baking your pie crust without a filling. So we're going to pre-bake our pie crust so that way we don't have a soggy bottom to our pies. And so that's why we are pre-baking our pie crust. And so what I've done is I've taken foil, and you can use either foil or either parchment paper, and I kind of crumpled it up just a little bit, not too much, just to kind of give it a little bit more flexibility when I am molding it to my pie crust. Make sure that the sides overlap the edges of your pie. And so then we're going to use some weights, and the weights that I'm using, I've used these lots of times, and these are something that you always want to reuse. And these are lentils that I'm using, and you can use either dry beans or dry lentils to weigh down your pie crust. And the reason why you want to weigh down the pie crust is that if you didn't use the beans or the lentils on top of the foil with your pie crust, the pie crust would bubble up, and so you'd get these patches of bubbled up pie crust when you're doing your blind baking without any filling. Okay, and so I do the same with the second one, and I'm lifting up on the sides because you want to make sure that your foil goes all the way to the edges and all the way around the bottom. Also, when you're putting your beans in, make sure that you are pushing your beans all around the edges so that way it goes all the way up the sides. You want to make sure that it is even all around and it's going all the way up the sides, just like that. Okay, now while I am doing that, my sweet potatoes have probably baked. They're nice and done. I'm going to go on and check on them, and we are going to substitute those and put in our pie crust. Our sweet potato skins are nice and tender. When I press on our sweet potatoes, my knife goes in nice and smooth with no resistance, and that's when we know our sweet potatoes are done. So I have put our pie crust in the oven. Now our pie crust was on 375, and I did a blind baking for half an hour. I gently am lifting up because the foil is still pretty hot, so you want to just kind of gently lift up. And also when you do this, try to do this in one swift movement because you don't want the lentils or the beans to end up slipping and ending up inside your pie crust. Okay, so you want to do this with one swift movement when you're lifting everything up, and you see how it is baked up and that we don't have any raw dough, that it's nice and baked up, our blind baking. And now we're going to check on the other one. And also, if I didn't mention before, it was on 375 blind baking, and I did it for 30 minutes. Now ovens may vary, so it might take yours 25 minutes. It might take yours up to 40 minutes, okay? And so we're going to check on the second pie crust that we have. Gently just do like this, because also you want to be gentle with this process, because sometimes a little bit of crust, a little bit of pie crust will tend to stick to the foil. Now that doesn't happen often, but you just want to be mindful of that in case that's happening. So that way you just want to lift up very gently, and in one swift motion you want to just gather everything up like that and just gently lift. And our pie crust has baked. It's nice and getting nice, that golden color, just like that. Now I'm going to let those pie crusts cool just like that on the stove. I'm going to let them cool. And while they are cooling, because you don't want to put your filling in hot pie crust, so while those are cooling, I'm going to work on our sweet potatoes that we took out of the oven. Our sweet potatoes are still warm to the touch. Peel away the potato skin, and I just cut it like that. And I'm doing exactly what I have seen my mother do for many, many years, growing up watching her in the kitchen, watching my aunts and my grandma in the kitchen, and just seeing how they always did their sweet potatoes when they were making their pies. Now you'll see a lot of times these are referred to as strings, and I have found that they're typically going to be more so on the outside. And so what I do is I just kind of peel away those outside layers, and I just want that nice fluffy meat, basically of the sweet potato. And I do like my mom did, where she took her knife and she just went through just like that, like I'm doing. She made those crisscross marks and just kind of broken up any strings that happen to be in there, as well as it helps to prepare your sweet potatoes for when you're going to make your pie filling. Now, after we've gone through our sweet potatoes several times with our knife, we are going to be scooping it into a measuring cup, and we're going to be measuring 1 cup, and usually you're going to get about 1 cup from each sweet potato. So we're going to use a total of 2 cups of sweet potatoes. Now, rule of thumb that I have found is that with your sweet potatoes, when you're picking out your sweet potatoes, you want that big part, that centerpiece, because it's going to taper off on the ends of the potato. But when you're picking your sweet potatoes in the market, you want them to be the size of a softball. I have found that when they are the size of the softball, that middle part, that is typically going to give me about a cup of sweet potatoes cooked. Okay. Now, once I have my 2 cups of sweet potatoes, I've put them in there, and you want to start your mixer off. And so once I've started my mixer and I've blended it, we're going to add in our softened butter. Now in the description box below, guys, I'm going to have a list of the ingredients you need to make this delicious sweet potato pie, as well as a list of ingredients for the pumpkin pie. But like I always say, it's not just the ingredients that make a great meal or a great dessert, it's how you put it together. And that's what I'm showing you today, how to put it all together. So once I have my softened butter, make sure that you stop your blender from time to time, just to kind of go around the sides to make sure that you don't have any pockets of sweet potatoes that's not blending in with the rest of the ingredients. Then I have my room temperature eggs, and we're adding, these are large eggs, and we're putting in 2 eggs, and I like to do them one at a time, and then let the blender mix everything together. And hey, if you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you are a returner, welcome back. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to go on and hit that subscribe button. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to go on and give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel to grow and distribute it all throughout YouTube. And don't forget to click share and share this video with a friend or family. Now what I did was I added some light brown sugar and also some regular granulated sugar, and that was a 1/2 cup of each. And next I'm adding some evaporated milk, and I'm adding a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk. Now remember though, in the description box below, you will have that list of ingredients to make this yummy sweet potato pie. I added 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then to that I added a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm also going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. Also, I added 1/4 teaspoon of regular table salt. Now this sweet potato pie recipe that I'm sharing with y'all today is one that my mom used for years, and it is my pleasure to share it with y'all today. Now this is what you want your filling, your sweet potato pie filling, to look like. It's going to be slightly thick, and you will see speckles of that softened butter that we used initially. You'll see speckles of the softened butter in your pie filling, okay? And so go on and fill your pie now with your filling. And remember, our pie crust we let cool. You do not want to add your filling to warm or hot pie crust, because what will happen is those speckles of butter will start to dissolve right away, and we don't want that. We want those speckles of butter that's all throughout our pie to start to dissolve and melt once we put it in the oven. It is going to make for a delicious creamy pie, and so that's what you want to do. Now once I've done that, we're going to cover the edges of our pie with foil. I have my oven is on 350 degrees, and our pie is going to bake for 50 to 60 minutes on 350 degrees. Now next we're going to go on and start on our pumpkin pie. Now our pumpkin pie, we're going to be using 1 can of pumpkin, and that's pumpkin puree, and you want to make sure that you're using pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling. Then we're going to use 1 can of sweetened condensed milk, and then also to our sweetened condensed milk we're going to add our other ingredients. Now you will see similar ingredients used for the sweet potato pie that we're going to be using in our pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie for sure is my husband's favorite, and so he loves his pumpkin pie, and so I make it for him a few times a year and not just on Thanksgiving. So to this we are adding our eggs, and our eggs are at room temperature, and those were large eggs, and I add the eggs in one at a time. So once we've got our eggs into our pumpkin batter, I'm adding something that's not necessarily traditional to pumpkin pie, and that's vanilla extract. That is my little secret ingredient. I add a half of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now to our pumpkin pie, I also added in some cinnamon. And that was 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I used a half of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and also a half of a teaspoon of cloves. In addition to that, I put in a half a teaspoon of regular salt. I'm going to give my pumpkin pie filling a nice good stir, and we are going to go on and fill our pie with our nice cooled pie crust. We're going to go on and put our pie filling in there. Now, my family's from the South, and growing up, we really didn't bake pumpkin pie. Sweet potato pie was the supreme in my household. And so when my husband and I were married, I really wanted to make a recipe, a pumpkin pie recipe that he would just truly enjoy. And so this is the one that I have been baking for over 25 years, and he really just enjoys it. Now, once we have our filling in our pie, we're going to line our pie crust with the foil to keep it from getting too brown as it bakes. And our pie is going to bake at 350 degrees for 1 hour. Now, our sweet potato pie had about a 30-minute head start on our pumpkin pie. I let it finish baking up, and it baked for 55 minutes. And this is our sweet potato pie. Oh my gosh, it looks so good, y'all. The crust looks so good. The pie has risen a bit. It looks delicious. It smells so good. It reminds me of my mom and home and baking and holidays, and it just brings back such wonderful memories. Now, our pumpkin pie finished baking, and it is baked for 1 hour at 350. We're going to remove the foil, and it also is smelling so yummy, y'all. I could smell all those nice spices. I smell the cloves in there, and I am just looking at this pie. It's nice golden brown. Now, before we cut into these pies, we are going to let them cool for a couple of hours right here on our countertop. And when I knew they were done is when I took my tester, and you want to test your pie in the middle. When your tester comes out clean, you know your pie is done and it is fully baked through and through. Now, our pies have cooled for 2 hours. And the first pie that we are going to try is going to be the sweet potato pie. Do you see how nice and glistening that looks on top? We are going to cut into this pie. And that first piece, we know how that first piece goes. It is always a struggle to get that very first slice just right. But you know what? It doesn't matter if it's the first piece or the last piece. We know it's all going to be good, right guys? And so we're going to go on and cut into our pie. And also, what I do with my pies is once they've cooled, I usually go on and put them in the refrigerator. And so after they've cooled and they've been out for a few hours, I go on and put my pies in the refrigerator, and I cover them with some saran wrap, and they will keep like that up to 5 days in the refrigerator. Okay. Now, likewise, if I have made my pies and we are going to have friends or family over and we are going to be consuming the pie that day, I just leave it sitting tight on my stove or my countertop, and so the pie is just right there on the stove or the countertop, and the family comes over and we go on and enjoy some pie that day. Now, are you guys ready for your bite? This first bite's for you. Okay, let me give it a try. Oh my goodness. This is so good, y'all. Oh my goodness. This deserves a second bite. Oh, Mama, I think I did you proud today. Oh, this pie is so good, y'all. Okay, so let's go on and try our pumpkin pie. Let's see how we did with that pie. So we're going to go on and slice into our pumpkin pie and see how we did with the pumpkin pie. Our pie crust, you see how nice and flaky our pie crust is? We don't make no cardboard crust around here. We make nice, flaky, flavorful pie crusts in this home. So I'm going to go on and slice this up, a piece of this pumpkin pie, and we are going to give it a try, and let's see how we did with our pumpkin pie. And comment down below and let me know in the comments, what is your favorite pie? Is it pumpkin pie or is it sweet potato pie? And pumpkin pie just doesn't seem complete unless it has that nice whipped topping. This is your bite. Now I'm going to give it a try. Oh, those spices in there, those cloves, the cinnamon. It is so good. This deserves a second bite as well. Let's see. Oh my gosh, it's so creamy, y'all. This is great pumpkin pie. I see why it is my husband's favorite. Well, that is it for me today, guys. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go on and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hey, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up and click share. And share this video with a friend or a family. Well, it was such a delight baking this afternoon with y'all. We made those classic sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie for the fall. I hope you give these recipes a try. And again, remember, it is always good when Devon is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.